Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. We are back out here today with the Traxxas TRX4 that we've been slowly adding upgrades to and checking out the performance gains as we go. So let's talk about the upgrades that we've added to the truck this time. So still running the sport body. Instead of running the ugly sliders that drop down and out, I just removed them and then I bent that Lexan in. So that helps it slide along a little better, gives it a little more belly clearance. The biggest difference this week is going to be the hot racing forward battery mount as well as servo relocation. So traditionally the servo actually sat about right here, and then the battery tray sat behind the motor and transmission there. So the idea there is that it's going to push a bunch of weight up forward, up on top of your axle, and then it moves your servo forward as well. Basically, the servo horn now runs towards the back instead of running forward, and it basically just 180 pivots on where that original servo sat. The downside to this setup is the shock tower here. Your battery has to be able to fit within that shock tower, and there's not a ton of room there. You could run a longer pack like that, but I'm just running a 1300 because I have 3 of them on hand for my comp truck. The second big upgrade that we did here was actually add the Hobbywing Fusion 2-in-1 motor ESC. This is the 1200 kV, so it's not real fast, but it's got great low end control, crawls super slow, and I really like that system. It also cleans up having an ESC mounted anywhere else, so it's just nice and clean, good looking install there. One other small thing I did was the axle shafts, after I put on the 8mm hex spacers, did not have enough threads, so I actually ended up putting in the, I think they're MIP, that's right. And so those shafts themselves actually add spacing to it, plus the hexes. So I've widened this truck again. I may ultimately end up taking off my wheel hexes to narrow it back up just a touch. I think both of them are like plus 8mm, but the MIP shafts give you more threads. So I've got the full threads hanging in there now. Now the nylon lock nuts are holding all the way on to these wheels and tires, which is great. Still running those stock wheels and tires, stock shocks, stock towers, stock bumpers. However, I flipped the mounts like you can see there, and then I trimmed up the body to fit that a little bit better as well. So let's get out on the rocks to see how the 2-in-1 motor does, see how the forward weight bias increases performance, and a little bit wider truck as well to help with the side hills or reaching different obstacles. Okay guys, let's go hit the rocks and see how she drives. My dog's running around in the background. That is Sydney. She hasn't been out wheeling with me for a little while, so some of you guys might not know. She comes out and joins me on occasion. Anyway, I picked up these upgrades from Sky RC Hobby Shop down here in St. George, Utah. Sky RC has been a big help with this truck, as not only just like knowledge and knowing what parts exist for this, but giving me a hand in choosing the upgrades as we go. So all the upgrades I put on this truck have come from Sky RC, so big shout out to them. Okay. This is a pretty fun obstacle. I actually ran my Vanquish Phoenix up this line for, that truck broke this line open, so we'll see if the old TRX can handle it as well. Trying to just keep that front tire hooked, but you got to get the turn going as well. Right there, that's the key point. Let's go uphill. So you guys can see just how much low end control that Hobbywing gives you. Now it does kill some of my top end. This truck is not as fast as it was, but for crawling, and especially my style of crawling, I usually don't go that fast anyway. However, it is fun to rip around. This truck does provide a lot of fun. So trying to turn into it with that front tire there. Suspension's gonna settle down, and I should be able to turn into it. Got that big overhang we just drove up. And then slowly work our truck over. Don't want to lose the front tires there, but I need to get the rear tires in the right spot so that this thing starts climbing. Because right now it's just scooting along the edge. Got to rear up. Come on, that's it. And then from here, it's just going to be about finding where the traction is. I will say I've been a big fan of the Traxxas shocks here as well as the tires. The tires have been great. I've been trying to debate on what tires to pick up for this, and I can't really come up with anything that I'm like, oh yeah, it definitely needs these, because these tires perform pretty awesome. I've seen a lot of comments of you guys saying to cut the lugs on these tires to get a little more performance. Maybe we will try that. Maybe we'll mess with that a little bit, but There we go, TRX4 got that line done. That's a pretty cool one, and it's a big aggressive looking one, so it's pretty cool this truck can run over that now. All right, with the wider truck now, it should be able to side hill just a little bit better. Wider trucks can always side hill better than narrower trucks, especially if you start with the same truck. So this will also give you an idea of like how much the tire pokes out. So I've got a third of the tread sticking out each side. So nothing crazy, but I think I might actually narrow this back up, because as you look under the truck, like the whole portal box is sticking outside of the wheel, and that's just a big hang-up point. So covering that up with a wheel and tire is actually ideal. That's actually one thing I haven't always liked about the Traxxas portals, is that they just seem kind of like blocky and chunky compared to something like the Axial AR45s or the Capra axles, and now the Vanquish Phoenix axle. I just think the portals are better tucked into the wheels on those trucks, and I think that gives you better performance. That was a pretty wild side hill there. It's hard to tell on camera, but a lot of trucks don't make it over that one. So we'll turn uphill. Having a little more weight up on those front tires helps that get bite to turn and go up and over ledges like that. So sometimes they won't want to turn, but with that extra weight up front, it certainly helps. So let's show you the speed of this truck now. It's definitely not fast. It's enough to get around. It's faster than I can walk. Like, I wouldn't have to floor it to go walking speed. So it'll rip around, it'll cruise, it'll bump up obstacles, but it's not as fast as the truck was. These TRX4s out of the box zip along pretty good. So we've actually driven up this obstacle in the last video, so I want to come back and take another bite at it. I got a pretty horrible approach angle on that. So let's come in on just a little bit of an angle. That's going to help us get that bumper to clear. And we don't need much of one here. That should do it. Nice. Now we're just going to drag the rear bumper, just like last time, because we haven't changed the clearance on the bumpers. Now I want to see if we can get this truck to climb up this ledge and just crawl it, because last time we were not able to. So having the added weight up on those front tires is going to help give them some bite and possibly get this crawl to work. Turn into it. Front tire is now up against a pretty big ledge, and just where it's pushing back on that truck, it's gonna wanna like make it. Oh, come on. It's right there on the edge. That speed, this truck wiggles a lot more, and I don't think that tire is gonna bite as hard with it under that much movement. So we're kind of losing where we were. Truck's slowly sliding away from me. So let's try that one more time. We almost crawled that, guys. That was cool. That was it. I can't turn my thumb hard enough. Okay, she got it. Hopefully it can handle this vertical here, because it's going to have to. So that overdrive, by putting underdrive in the rear axle, that overdrives the front. That's the exact scenario where you want it, where you get that front tire hooked over the top and the truck's very steep. The overdrive front end is going to help pull that front end down faster than the rear is pushing, so help the truck not flip up and over. So there we go, guys. We can see a performance increase right there on that particular climb. I was able to crawl it, didn't have to bump up it or anything. And then that overdrive putting in work, nice and steep. When I first brought this truck out, this thing would just flip over backwards when I tried to square up to that. So we're definitely seeing differences out here on the rocks. So another thing I really like about the Hobbywing 2-in-1 is where all the weight is put on this Traxxas truck. The motor is forward and low, so it's putting all the weight of the 2-in-1 right there, up in the front and the nose of the truck down low. So that's helping with our weight bias, as well as I'm pretty sure this is lighter than having a separate ESC. Maybe by an ounce or two, but you know what? It doesn't hurt having a little bit lighter setup. That way your truck has less to drag up a hill. So obviously anytime you're going uphill, you're fighting gravity, and having less weight is always a good thing there. Just dangling a tire off the edge of a cliff on the back right. where this nose of this thing isn't helping that bumper. Well, we might have pulled that off, which is kind of amazing, the line that it took. I think I'm just going to take a short back up. There we go. You can see where the sliders aren't rubbing anymore because they're gone. Not all that pretty, but it wheeled up it, so can't complain. Oh yes, one thing I want to make sure I mention is one of the big reasons I put that 2-in-1 in here, the Hobbywing Fusion motor, is because it actually allows a higher voltage to your servo. So I can get more strength out of my Savic servo. The RTR servo burned up pretty quick. I threw that Savic servo in there before I kind of planned on doing it, but like right there, the truck's under a bunch of load, I can turn all I want. So having more power to that thing makes it more capable. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that motor and ESC in here. Just getting that rear hook where we want it. This truck is quite sideways right here. In fact, the front passenger tire's off the wall. There she goes, she's gonna settle back down. This was a gate on one of my courses as well. This was gate number 10, so all you had to do is get your rear tire through and you're done. But you should be able to set this down nice and steady if you get the line right. So now it's getting real steep and off camber. It's a pretty fun one. Had to throttle just a little bit, bumper keeping us upright, and we drove out of it. We side hilled this last time, so there should be no change here. One question I've got for you guys, I've got new heavier wheels, and I've also got aluminum shock towers with multiple mounting points. Which upgrade would you guys like to see in the next video? I think the weight of the wheels would probably make the biggest difference because I think the suspension geometry on these TRX4s is actually pretty good. So side hill right around that ledge, drive straight a little bit longer, then turn into it. It's gonna pivot right around, cruise up. So drop a comment which upgrade you'd like to see in the next video. We'll get out there, make it happen. Obviously, in time, we're gonna do both, but I'm wondering what we should do next. All right, I just did this climb off camera, and I did something that I wanna show you guys. So trying to get up here, front end starts to climb. See how light this front end's getting? That's it right there. The truck still flips over backwards when getting on something too steep. It's better, the performance has increased since we first started with this truck. It used to do that much easier, but it's still an issue with this thing. So, like, it just loops out really easy, which I don't like. I wanna see if with our upgrades that will kind of go away. Obviously, it will always flip over backwards at some point, but I think it loops out too easy. So the bumper's saving us there, but that's exactly what I want to illustrate. So you know what, I think our next upgrade, I'm leaning towards wheels just to get some weight down low. I may even put the factory tires on, I'm not sure yet, but I don't like how it does that. Now the unfortunate part of that battery relocation is it's not particularly lower center of gravity, it's just forward weight. So like I say, you get advantages of forward weight in some areas, but when you're standing your truck up that high, having that battery up high like it is not the greatest thing in the world. There's a battery right under the top of the hood. And that's why we're doing this. But overall, guys, I definitely don't want to sound like I'm like being negative on the TRX4. This thing is super fun, and quite honestly, like I'm having more fun with it than I anticipated actually having. This thing wheels great for what it is. Like even these small upgrades we've done, it's really a good performer. The reason I'm like being so particular on it is because I kind of have to be, just to try and see what we can upgrade and improve, and see where its flaws are, so that I can try and work on fixing them. Now, I don't think I'll ever get rid of all of the flaws, but we're certainly going to test and tune and pick away at it and see what we can come up with. But yes, if you guys are curious, like if you should buy a TRX4, number one, they're known for being just about bulletproof, so they're a great choice for that. They're really tough, and then there's a lot of aftermarket upgrades available. I'm just trying to figure out which ones work. We could probably just floor it in here and this truck wouldn't care at all. This is a pretty wicked climb here. I don't really anticipate this working, but you never know unless you try. So I want to send a big shout out and thank you to Sky RC Hobby Shop in St. George, Utah. If you guys are in the area, stop by and check it out. Thank you very much, Cody. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks to all the viewers for watching. Thanks to all the commenters for commenting. I greatly appreciate it, guys. You really are helping me decide on what to do with this truck, so I will read them and I will take that into consideration of what ends up happening. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.